rays.
How to achieve images that result in beautiful wall portraits that your clients will always treasure. In A Whole New Light, we'll show you how to create your own success story and realize your dreams.
The park we're in now is called China Camp. It's springtime, it's green, and beautiful for soft portraits. Since I do a lot of my work environmentally, I'll be taking you to a variety of locations, which I use to create different moods and feelings according to the subjects. The idea of this video is to teach you how to find and select great backgrounds for location portraits. There's so many elements to consider. Things like light, symbols, lines, shapes, color, form, texture, three-dimensionality. Say nothing of the practicalities of just posing people outdoors versus in the studio. We're going to deal with each of these elements at a variety of locations. But we're here now because of the great natural beauty and the beautiful light that exists here. The key is in knowing how to find and recognize good light and then learning how to use it effectively. The quality of light you use is probably the most powerful element in any photograph. Light has been called the hero, the magic dust of a picture. Wherever it's sprinkled on a scene, the eye naturally follows. Beautiful light can transform the ordinary into the glorious. Glory, splendor, brilliance, even holiness can be conveyed to us by the quality of light we see. It's no small thing that in the Bible, God is often referred to as the light. Let's consider the different types of lighting you're likely to encounter in an outdoor situation. First, there's the broad expanse of open sky in the afternoon when the color temperature is primarily blue or white. Outdoor film is color balanced for this kind of light, which is called direct light. Direct light is very bright and causes harsh shadows, but it's wonderful for detail in certain landscape photographs, although it's brutal on people's faces, causing all kinds of imperfections to show, and it usually causes the subject's eyes to squint. A more useful light for portraiture is diffuse light. It's softer, less contrasty, and a lot more forgiving of flaws on faces. It's available on days that are overcast or cloudy. You know, the kind of days that most non-photographers think you can't take pictures on. In general, the first 2 hours after the sun rises and the last 2 hours after the sun sets provide the most beautiful light of the day for location portraiture. When the sun is lower in the sky, several factors are important. The color temperature of the sun is shifted to the red. If you have a color temperature meter, you can actually measure this as a Kelvin number, and it would read between 3,400 to 3,600 degrees. It's a beautiful, soft, flattering light with longer shadows, so objects have a sculpted and three-dimensional feel. This light is often called the golden light because of the beautiful cast to it, as you can see in this next series of pictures taken here in that beautiful magic time of golden light. We're here now with my daughter Jessica, one of my favorite models, to illustrate how I use the light to create the set of pictures that you just saw, and also to illustrate how to extend the shooting time of the prettiest light of the day. As you can see now, we're here in a basic direct light, with the sun traveling in the direction of that mountain behind me. In the wintertime, that sun sets fast, and it gets dark very quickly. In order to extend the usable shooting time, look for a natural or man-made feature, such as a mountain or a tall grove of trees or maybe a tall set of buildings, to actually block the ball of the sun. When this happens, you still have the beautiful afterglow of sunset, but the sun has a considerable distance to go before it's down and it really begins to get dark. Come on. While we're waiting for the sun to go behind that mountain, let me show you a very pretty way to use that last hour and a half of light. What we're going to do here is set up a very pretty backlight shot. And notice that because Jessica is so blonde, the direct rays of that sun actually cause her hair to burn up and begin to lose some detail. So what I always do is walk my subject to the very edge of that direct light and work right on the fringe of it. Jessica, let's walk right back in this way. Now watch what happens very slowly. Go ahead, keep walking. Now the light has become softer. It's still very pretty, very directional, beautiful for portraiture. And look what happens when she turns her face back over this way. What this is a beautiful light source called the open sky. The direct rays of the sun are being filtered by the edge of those trees, and we're getting a very soft backlight behind her. We're getting a key light, the main light for the plane of the face, coming from the open sky, and this crosses her face and gives beautiful definition to the cheeks and the face. And we're getting a shadow, which is actually created by this grove of trees. So if you work on the edge of a shadow, on the edge of an obstruction like this, it will create the shadow, the sky will create the key light, and the sun will create the backlight. It's a beautiful natural situation to work in. Jessica, that's so pretty. Stand on your right foot a little bit more. Put your left foot back a little bit like that. That's great. And look right back over here towards me. Tilt your head just a little bit. That's beautiful, darling. I love it. That's great. You don't need to be limited to these lighting conditions. You may find a beautiful background that has just the right amount of sparkle to it, and you want to move out farther into the direct light. That's okay. This is a perfect situation to use a gold reflector to add more exposure to the face and balance out the light that's on the hair. Follow me. Okay, Jessica, stand right on the edge of the light here. What we have now is a beautiful situation of gorgeous backlight, beautiful gold light as it skims across the top of the grass, illuminates the tree, and lights up Jessica's hair. The problem is there's not enough light on the plane of the face. It would be underexposed. So what we want to do, even though the wind's blowing here, we're going to bring in a little bit of gold reflectance to illuminate the plane of the face. Now, all of a sudden, the exposure on the face is the same as the exposure on the hair, and the negative will be exposed correctly. There'll be detail everywhere. We're just at that magic moment when the sun changes from being the backlight to the key light. Now watch what happens. Jessica, walk over this way. Now, as you can see, there is a very direct form of light on her face, which is giving a lot of highlight on this side, but the shadow's still quite deep. Now watch as the sun slowly goes behind the mountain. It will begin to soften, and as it steps down about a half a stop or a stop, it's going to create a beautiful, soft, even light over this whole field. And for hundreds of acres, there's this beautiful sweet light, giving a wonderful form and texture to everything. Now what's happening is that light, inch by inch, is becoming more and more like a beautiful studio light, giving just enough form and texture, but yet it's lost its specularity. It's not so harsh that it's burning up or throwing hard lines. Now the lines get softer and softer. The same thing happens to the background. Now what we've created is literally hundreds of acres of beautiful studio, all caused by the setting sun being obstructed by the mountain. Because it's not actually setting beneath the horizon line, this will extend our shooting time at least a half an hour or 40 minutes. enabling us to do all sorts of walking and moving poses that show vast areas of landscape, not forcing us to be confined into one small area of perfect light. For this sweet, small time of the night, the light is perfect everywhere. Back down along this way. Because what I want to do is create a line that goes like this. You'll be going in this direction, so walk towards that tree over there, okay? So just walk straight ahead, take a step, beautiful. Okay, keep walking that way. That's great. Now look back towards me. Good. And just kind of look up in the sky there. That's beautiful. In fact, take your hand and just put it back against your chest like as if you just think about something. That's so pretty. Fix your hair just going across your face there. There you go, on that side. That's good. Take another step. I want you to go in closer to the tree there. Stop and just look straight up like in profile. There you go. Beautiful. That's so pretty. Let that hand go real graceful across your chest. See how the fingers are pointing? There you go. That's nice. I like that. Very pretty. Now turn your face back towards me over here. What I want to do, I'm going to create an additional line here by actually taking her dress and getting it caught up on some grass. What that does, it just gives it a little more graceful. It didn't happen there, so take one step farther forward and we'll get it caught on a little more grass. That's good. That's the way to do it. There we go. Beautiful. It just extends that curve, because that's one of the curves of romance and softness and gentleness. Turn your face back up towards us again just a little bit. That's so pretty. Now look at that beautiful soft light. It's sculpting her, it's sculpting the dress, it's shining just beautifully through the grass and giving shape and form to all the ridges of the bushes behind her. Everything in this scene speaks of softness and romance. The beautiful round shapes of the bushes, the beautiful intensity of that green, so restful and gentle. That's really pretty, darling. Okay, I tell you what, take a step back towards me. We'll walk to another scene over here. All right, that was beautiful. You can continue to work in this light until you lose it completely. I'm often out here photographing while cars are going by with their headlights on. Don't be fooled because your eyes seem to say to you that it's dark. The quality of the light is still there. You can simply adjust your exposure and correctly expose the negative, and it will look absolutely beautiful. Jessica, turn this way just a little bit. The feeling that I had here was this beautiful, soft, cascading line of the tops of the bushes leading down this way, this beautiful greenery, so lush and full behind her. It kind of gave the feeling of a girl walking out of the woods and coming up out of the creek bed. So walk up towards me, and as you walk, hold the edge of your dress like you're afraid of stepping into something there. There you go. That's so pretty. And now, as if you heard something and you look back over that way. Notice how beautiful the light always remains, even as we travel throughout the scene. There are literally hundreds of acres of usable light in a situation like this. You can walk her through and create a huge vista shot, or you can be in very close and intimate just like we are here, and you'll always have beautiful light. Take another step or two towards me over here. In fact, that's so pretty. That's so pretty. You know what? Let's try this. Let's try you kneeling down in this light right here. Just find a comfortable place right there to kneel down. There you go. Always be aware of all the lines in your photograph. Often you can actually control the lines if it's something as pliable as grass simply by coaxing it in the direction you want it to go. There are lines everywhere here. We're responsible for absolutely everything within the frame that we're choosing, so make sure everything flows in the correct direction. Jessica, let me do this. Let me have you spin around on your hip and sit this way a little bit farther. That's pretty. Turn your face this way even a little bit more. Beautiful. I'm just going to soften some of the lines behind her even a little bit more. And lean over on this hand. That's so beautiful. This would make a beautiful close-up shot with the lines leading in for a foreground and the lines leading away for the background. Okay, turn your face this way. We're going to continue to walk through this beautiful environment. I just want to demonstrate how now we can use some beautiful vista shots and show a large landscape area behind her. One of the most beautiful things about working at this time of night is that the exposure on the face is very, very close to the exposure in the sky. And so it's one of the few times when we can utilize the sky in the photograph without it going pure white. Beautiful vista scene like this, the beautiful swoop of the mountain coming down, leading line down towards Jessica. You can still see the beautiful glow of that sky. Even though the sun has been down for quite a while, it's still glowing brighter in the direction where it's set. So we've created a beautiful landscape with a person in it, a beautiful mood shot. So far we've concentrated our discussion on one of the most powerful elements of a portrait, the quality of the light. And we'll be talking about light again at each of our other locations. But for now, let's discuss some of the other factors that really affect the mood and feeling of a background. My ideas really derive from the world of art. And one definition of art is that it is the conscious arrangement of symbols within a frame designed to evoke a feeling. I'll be stressing the importance of symbols in this video and other videos in this series. The feeling of a photograph is created in the subconscious mind before anything else. Every line, color, texture, shape, everything within the frame is important to the subconscious mind. Let's just take a walk around in this natural environment. I'll show you what I mean. When I walk through a scene such as this, I try to be aware of all the mood and the feeling I'm receiving from it. To do that, I try and relax and empty my mind of all the workings of the portrait studio, and for a brief, enjoyable moment, simply take in all the sensations around me. I try and see everything as if I'm seeing it for the very first time, with a heightened visual awareness. This is more than just looking. This is what I call seeing. You know, one of the problems with working in a large open area such as this is that the eye takes in so much, but so do all the other senses. We can smell the fragrant blossoms in the trees. We can feel the cool breeze in our temple and soft grass underfoot. We can hear the birds singing and listen to the trees rustling. But you know, all those sweet sensations will not follow you back into the studio when you present your proofs to your client. So don't be fooled. The overall feeling that you experience in an environment will not translate into your photograph. Only the visual elements will transmit feeling. The color, the line, the shape, the form, the texture, they alone bear the full responsibility of transmitting feeling. Let me show you some of the things that I see out here and how I would respond to them as visual communicators. You know, when I walk into a scene such as this, one of my first impressions was that it would be an excellent spot to do a subject like a mother and a child. The reason is that in the background, there's a very soft curving line overhead, and it kind of gives the feeling of nurturing, of gentleness. Same thing with the grass. The soft texture of the grass and the dappled light on it is also supportive of that feeling. As we go farther across the scene, suddenly the feeling changes. The reason is that the lines are different. Now there are thick black lines of the trees. It kind of gives it more of a foreboding, a more mysterious feeling. It doesn't connect as well with the mother and child. It would be a beautiful scene for a photograph, but the subject matter should definitely be different. Always want to try and connect the feeling of the symbols with the subject. I'll often refer to a background as being either masculine or feminine. There are certain lines, colors, shapes, and textures that the subconscious will connect with the attributes of either masculinity or femininity. In traditional art, the darker, heavier lines, the heavier, rougher textures, the angular shapes such as the squares and the rectangles and the triangles are automatically connected with the masculine, where the feminine lines, the soft, wavy lines, the light, delicate colors and gentle textures are connected with the woman.
It only makes sense then, when choosing a background for a photograph of a woman, where her femininity is to be emphasized, we would look for lines that would have a soft, fluid curve to them, as well as softer textures, gentler colors, and rounded shapes. Pretty much the opposite ingredients would be sought to emphasize masculinity. Lines could be more structured, textures heavier, colors darker and cooler, shapes could be more angular.
Of course, you can't always find the perfect set of ingredients for every background. Many backgrounds include both masculine and feminine, but that's okay. Can still make for a very interesting photograph, letting the opposites play off each other. The secret is to use just the right amount of the key ingredients to weigh the feeling of the photograph towards the correct interpretation. Let's practice finding masculine and feminine elements in a background and decide what the subconscious response to those symbols might be. By the way, in this park, there will be decidedly more feminine than masculine elements, but such is the case with Mother Nature.
Feeling do you get from this scene? The soft, long grass, pastel colors, light, delicate textures, graceful, fluid lines all speak of the soft side of femininity, and also youthfulness and gentleness. It's very non-threatening. It's welcoming, inviting, tender. Not far away, we have a very different look.
The feeling from this particular scene is practically the opposite of the previous scene. The textures are rough and heavy. The colors deeper, darker, more contrasting. The shapes massive and unyielding. Typically, this would be labeled as masculine. But I want to make an important point here. You do not need to follow strict formulas when deciding on what subject is best suited for what particular background. A very feminine subject could be placed in a masculine background, and a masculine subject in a feminine background, depending on what particular feeling you want to achieve.
A young woman might be posed very effectively next to rough textures or angular, forceful shapes to bring out the strength of a particular character trait, where a man, posed sitting in a garden, might bring out a thoughtful, sensitive side of the personality. We're not limited in any way. In fact, contrasting subjects and backgrounds can be a very effective form of expression.
When I walk into a new area, after I evaluate it for the kind of light that might exist there, the next thing I look for are lines. Lines can have a very powerful influence on a composition and add a very dynamic effect to a portrait. Since I photograph a lot of women and children, I'm often looking for curved lines, S-curves and C-curves, the kind of lines you often find on roadways and country paths.
What lines do you see in this composition? Initially, the S-curve is important, the line that comes in from the far right. As the camera comes in closer, I want you to notice the series of diagonal lines caused by the foliage, the bottom line of the bushes, as well as the top line, the bottom line of the trees, as well as the top line of the trees. All echoes softly cascading diagonal lines throughout the composition. This often occurs on a hillside as the foliage adapts to the shape of the hill. The edges of trees, branches, bushes, and mountains are often the dominant lines in the composition.
Sometimes the easiest and most effective way to create a diagonal line is to take a straight line, and instead of viewing it head-on, simply view it from the side. In the beginning, you may find it difficult to isolate effective backgrounds from the large landscape your eye is capable of seeing. You may want to carry a 35mm camera with you to isolate your view into a particular frame. If you don't have a camera, simply ask your assistant for his. He can't say no. It's written in the script. Michael, give me your camera. Works every time. For those times when you really don't have a camera available, simply take a cardboard or a piece of paper and cut a frame into it. This works as a telephoto lens when you hold it at arm's length, and as a wide-angle lens as you hold it close to your face. Another bold creator of lines is light. Light can create a constantly changing pattern of lines as it works its way across a landscape. The most dramatic demonstration of this is when the sun is low and coming from behind, outlining the trees and grasses against a darker background. Lines are everywhere. Some are constant, such as tree limbs, roadways, and fences, but other lines appear only on special occasions. Wind is a great creator of lines. A gust of wind can cause a flat, static field to create beautiful, graceful lines, or make a light fabric dance across a landscape. Let's pretend we've just walked down this country path and come across this scene. What's your first reaction to it? Mine would be that it's somewhat masculine, sort of a cowboy kind of fence here. Square shapes, the rough textures. But let's see how things change as we add a subject to it. Danielle. You add a pretty young girl next to a fence like this, automatically you want to create a more feminine picture. Just seems natural. So let's take another look at this same fence from a different angle and just watch how things change. Follow me. You know, it's amazing how fast feelings change, isn't it? All of a sudden, we've just changed our point of view and we've created something different. Come on up front here. Now, instead of viewing this as a country fence and sort of a place where a cowboy might lean up against it, we've created a beautiful curving diagonal line, a very graceful, gentle entry point for our beautiful subject. What I'm saying is, don't take things factual. Always view a scene by way of your feelings. This scene feels completely different from a different angle. Never assume that one angle is the descriptive angle. Walk all the way around it. Look at it in 100 different ways. You'll get that many different feelings. Just lowering the camera angle would create a whole different feel, as we're going to photograph just a second from now, as we look at the angle through all this beautiful soft grass, and we'll change the feeling again. Pretty. Look over to your left, that way. Now over that way. Farther that way. Yeah, just down at your flowers again. Hold them with two hands. There you go.
Lines and shapes gain importance when they occupy a larger percentage of the frame. This is demonstrated here with the girl's hands. The beautiful shape of her face, and the beautiful S-curve design of her hair. Notice what happens as the camera pulls back, and the other lines, shapes, and textures begin to contribute. The wider view changes the feeling.
You know, it's very, very difficult to evaluate certain scenes without seeing it through your camera. The reason for that is not just the fact that you're isolating a frame now and just viewing only those elements that are crucial to the picture, but also the focus. It seems to have a tremendous amount of difference on the look of the textures of the materials that are in the background. What can look very sharp and almost spiky in the background, dropped way out of focus, loses its edge harshness, and it just has a whole different effect. So we have to select backgrounds originally by just walking through, but when you get close, look through your camera lens, especially if you're looking through a soft focus lens, things will begin to really have a tremendously different feel. That's beautiful now. I like that. Just look down towards your flowers one more time. So pretty. Love the way the wind blows your hair. That's great. All right, little happy face. You can do it. Atta girl. All right, that's beautiful, Danielle. I'll tell you what, just turn to your left just a little bit more. All right, gorgeous. All right, we have it. That looks beautiful, darling. You know what? I think what we're going to do is just move to the next little bit farther down the hillside. Okay? All right, follow me. And there are several things in this scene that could stand correcting. Number one, the light is very harsh. One of the problems with that is that it's causing a lot of contrast on the foliage of this tree. Now, the kind of tree that you select for your background is very important. The size of the leaf actually means something. Here we have leaves that have sort of a pointy feel to them. When there's a lot of contrast added to that, it becomes harsh. If you want to show youthfulness and gracefulness and gentleness, find a tree that has very small leaves and photograph it in a very soft light. The other thing you never want to do is photograph light hitting foliage directly. It looks so much prettier when the light is shining through the leaf when it's lit from behind. One of the other problems that we have here is that the model is placed so close to the background that it causes the whole scene to look flat. What we need to do is separate her from the background and create the illusion of third dimension. Let me show you a scene where that exists. Danielle, why don't you just stand right by the edge of this? Now, previously we had the model flat up against a heavy detail, and that was just a very two-dimensional scene. What we want to create here is the feeling of third dimension. The way to do that, number one, is to have something in the background that slowly drops out of focus. Ideally, you want your background detail to be 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 feet out of focus. That creates a very soft receding line. Another line that we're receding here is the line of this bush. Softly out of focus here, sharp here, and then these bushes behind her drop farther and farther out of focus. Again, it's a repeated line that slowly recedes into the background. One of the other lines you'll notice here is this line of just this dry grass that slowly weaves its way back towards the background. So to repeat, we want to have a line that will slowly recede towards the background. We want to have objects in the background that appear smaller than the ones in the foreground. That's called perspective. That aids in the feeling of three-dimensionality. And the other thing is to have the focus drop off on a slowly receding line all the way to the background. Satisfy all three elements and you're going to create a feeling of third dimension.
Let's evaluate several different scenes and see how feelings change as we take different photographic elements into consideration. The point I want to make here is that what actually ends up on your film is considerably different than what your eye sees when you first walk upon a scene. Let's consider the angle of view. The eye naturally sees a wide angle, taking in many different lines and textures. Here the textures range from the grasses in the foreground all the way to the mountains in the background. Now watch what happens when we isolate a single part of that view by adding a longer focal length lens. Now we are seeing just a precise element of this scene, and we're seeing it sharply. Again, watch the change as we switch to selective focus and a soft focus lens. Now the feeling is completely different. The symbols have changed completely. Let's review the process one more time. First, we walk onto the scene, see the wide-angle view. Next, we isolate a certain part of that scene. And now we add the soft focus, and the feeling changes completely.
In this video, we've concentrated on the basic elements of outdoor portraiture, specifically on what to look for when selecting a natural background for an environmental portrait. We've seen the difference a beautiful light can make, and we've looked at several different kinds of light and how to find and use it. It seems that the most beautiful light comes when the sun is low on the horizon. Simply gives more form and texture to things then. A rule to follow is work by the first tree in the forest. Choose an open clearing. Don't go deep in the forest. What this does, it allows the beautiful light from the open sky to come in for a key light effect. And the forest itself actually obstructs some of the light, creating the shadow which is so necessary to form and roundness. Always place your subject so the key light from the open sky comes in from the side. This too helps give form and texture to your subject. Seeing light is a skill that will take time to develop, but you'll find it's an incredible asset to the look and feeling of your portraiture. Seeing is indeed critical to outdoor photography. Simply moving the camera a few feet one direction or another adds a whole new set of elements to your viewfinder. Try to be sensitive to the feelings that the colors, lines, shapes, and forms are providing, and use only those elements that support the feeling you want for your portrait. Take advantage of the beautiful sense of depth and dimension that open space can provide. Look for receding lines that will take you farther and deeper into the background. Use perspective, the placement of something large in the foreground and small in the background. This again gives the illusion of third dimension. Separate your subject from the background by a considerable distance. Don't put them flat up against something. And then by selective focus, that will turn soft and again give that feeling of depth. A beautiful background is like a supporting cast for your subject. It's like taking a beautiful set and decorating it for a play that's about to happen. Don't forget, have fun when you're out there looking for these things. Use your imagination, be sensitive to your feelings, and remember, if you sincerely look for beauty, you're gonna find it. Thanks for watching.